outside and I guess just causing a ruckus. They were looking through cars. It was like a small fight that happened. I mean, just kind of like almost like a world star highlight reel, basically.
Oh, really?
And that's kind of what they're going off of. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. But hey, you got a response last night. More than I got on my end.
Yeah, and that was a little alarming when you said that he didn't respond to you.
Yeah. So one of the things that has plagued this entire thing, and then I honestly believe why it's been 7 going on 8 years now, is because of exactly that. I will meet someone, seems like a great opportunity, seems like the right person, and I get as far as, here is the letter, or here is the package you requested, or what have you, and then they disappear. And that's why, I don't know if you recall, but way back when, I think it was like one of the first conversations, I was saying that, they'll ignore me. I mean, that's really what it is. They'll just straight up ignore me, but it's when either the people are asking the question, or there is media involved, or what have you. That's when they actually move. Anything else, I'm just too small of a guy, I guess.
Yeah. I was trying to think about that last night a little bit. 'Cause I think a similar thing happened with me whenever I was pursuing journalism jobs and writing angry letters to Vice magazine. Well, they were probably ignoring me because I was writing them angry letters, but at the same time, I don't know. I was quite serious about the way I think journalism is going today and where I think it's heading. And that was probably about 6 years ago. And I don't think it's any surprise that we now find ourselves in what people are calling for a civil war and whatnot. And
Right.
I think that's all brought on by the media. I mean, there's a tendency to ignore people that can control the narrative from their end, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure why Todd didn't respond to you, though.
Yeah, and when I think about it, given Todd's position, which is not anything in administration, he's just an aide to Paula. It goes back to what we were talking about before when I was explaining how staffers really are more of the call makers than I think people realize, because the staffers are the kind of the gatekeepers, and these gatekeepers will, whether there is ill intent or not, they will mitigate and filter through what actually gets to that person that's in charge of that office. And in this case, I think that it's a perfect example of, you have someone like Todd who is mitigating what he believes is worth, I guess, Paula's time or not. And
we should work on that, because I think part of what that is you not coming across, or not at the very least sounding like the person that you're trying to get a hold of. I think that comes down to more a psychology basis.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done that on you. I mean, I've had like a little dabble in business-to-business sales, and that's like one of the first things they tell you is, whenever you're trying to get past the gatekeeper, come off like the person you're trying to get a hold of. So come off as like a high type A personality. And then when you get in touch with the person you're supposed to get in touch with, then you can like be yourself and chill a little bit more. So I think it could just be like a psychology thing, but again, I'm not entirely sure.
I mean, from my perspective, it's one part process, 2 part person, right? Because I'm been and I continue to work in kind of both realms, right? So, one part I understand where it's a process that, you have to go through, in which this staffer will be kind of this ship to get you to the next bridge, to the next staffer, to the next bridge, so forth and so on, right? So, I get that there's that dynamic to it. But on the other end of that, where it's something like this, where there is no per se process that is clear cut, or staffer that can just press a button because this is what their job is to do. When it gets to this point, I get when I sit back and think, how do I adjust what I'm trying to say so something can happen? I thought, before, if you would have talked to me years ago, you would have just seen a lot of raw data, right? And instead of giving like a 1-page summary, it was like a 5-page summary, because I was really trying to get from start to finish with nuts and bolts included, exactly, why I'm reaching out to that person. And I realized that, okay, well, nobody, even a staffer's not going to have time to read and understand and process all that, right? And so there's like this fine line between hammering in on the main issue, but also giving enough to say, hey, look, I'm not just, pulling this out of thin air. I can give you more than enough redundant documents or evidence to substantiate whatever I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And so finding that middle ground is what I've been doing for, I would say, like the last 3 or 4 years. And there seems to be
middle ground
on the surface. What's that?
Middle ground being
that, here's the story on a 1-page, and if you need additional documentation, I will provide that to you. But let me just narrow in on kind of one headline, if that makes sense, right? So kind of going back to like what last conversation we had when we were talking about there's a buffet of stories, trying to find the headline that's the broadest, that kind of hints at everything. So similar to like the presidential memorandum, right, where it just kind of narrows down on what exactly is the issue, to the point where here's the problem, here's the solution, and here's why we're talking to the presidential office, right? That is a little bit more succinct now for the last 3 or 4 years than it has been prior to that point. Because prior to that point, it would be more akin to saying, hey, here's all the FOIA documentation, and then going into the nitty-gritty. On this date, this applies to this party, and this is what this case was about. You know what I mean? So finding the middle ground between something like that memorandum, while keeping the door open to providing additional information, or like the package that we sent to Todd in the beginning, that has been more of the evolution of this whole process. But with that, again, these gatekeepers in the very beginning, and this is the other problem. I think that it's just a common denominator. When I'm able to actually talk, like kind of like going to a trial, right? If I'm actually present, I'm able to say something. Things happen, things move. Right. When I'm sending things electronically, that's when everyone seems to disappear. And I understand.
Sorry, I'm just opening my garage door. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. I understand why, because just kind of like in our conversation, you're not going to get everything in one, right? And you're not going to understand all of this information that's coming your way. So it would take a series of conversations to understand more, or it would be okay, I get the main point, and I'm content with what I have so far. But I never have a reading of that. Like when it comes to Todd, I don't know what he is or isn't doing, what he believes is or isn't going to happen, or whether or not, in this case specifically, he got the memorandum sent to him as wife.
Oh, you're good.
Sorry about that. This one here.
Is she the angry one? Is she the angry one, the little one?
Yeah. She's 9 years old.
Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry about that. Come on, let's go.
Sorry, Eric. A couple of dogs came up to me.
Yeah, no worries. So I kind of think right now, I think one of the reasons why he responded to you and not, and this might be the more pessimistic side of me, but part of me thinks that he's responding to you because he knows, as a journalist, at some point you may or may not be a problem down the road, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think that, so I think that it's a lot easier for him to respond to you. And do I believe that he's actually doing it? I don't know. I don't know if he's slow rolling.
I don't know either. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that it is telling that he's going to respond to you, but not respond to me. Almost like, let me satisfy him, but I'm not really going to do anything. That's kind of my.
I want to say I think we went with the right strategy there, too. By the way, me responding to Todd separately.
Yeah.
I think we went with the right strategy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that was definitely confirmed.
So
I do, but and here's the other thing. I found out this morning that my mom, because like I said, my mom was with me when we talked to Miss White. My mom called Todd, and I didn't even know that. Yeah, she called Todd yesterday, left a voicemail. So if we put that all into the same salad bowl, right? You reached out. I reached out both on email, both on text, and both on call. And my mother reached out on a call. He hasn't responded to any of us, but he responded to you, right? And he's telling you that there's no reason to me to think that why would he not tell me that he gave it to Paula, but he would tell the journalist that he gave it to Paula. I feel like that, and again, I hate assuming, I really do, but with what I'm left with, you got your reasoning, I would say, well, maybe he didn't actually give it to Paula. He's just trying to satisfy the journalist because the journalist can harm them.
that's right. I'm gonna fuck this shit up. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
he's a pastor, right? Like, it's kind of like, hey, dude, like, aren't you supposed to be
but at
an
the end
example of the good?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I mean, I always feel like those people are full of shit anyway. I mean, they can call themselves pastors or whatever, but I think they're full of shit. Here's the thing, though. I came up with another idea. So, pretty soon, Joe Biden is probably going to elect the Pope or somebody as his inner cabinet. I don't know. He's Catholic, right? He's going to, with the dude with the pointy hat, he's going to get one of those guys. And if we can employ the same strategy that we did, or what you did to connect with Paula, my guess is he's going to have somebody's cabinet. He's probably going to have a church. He's probably going to be speaking at that church. If you could find a way to maybe put yourself in front of that person, we might be able to get ahead of the curve this time. And I think it might be a good strategy to hit up next.
Yeah, I think there needs to be multiple pans in the fire, if you will. I think that is spot on to what I was doing this morning, which was trying to research as much information as to who he's bringing in, both on the religious side and in other areas, to try to do the same thing basically. And it's hard, right? It's very hard. Like I think about, well, how did it work out with Paula? I still think it's a God thing, if I was going to be honest with you, because there was no way I would have known that she was going to be at that church at that time, and there's no way that I would have known that she would be available because she was just eating oatmeal right after the service ended. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the other aspect of that is that that was an opportunity in which it has to be an environment where I can actually physically be there and physically talk to the person. Because anything else, again, it's kind of like this. I just kind of fall through the cracks. So I think you're right. Finding that and trying to get into there is definitely the next strategy. But on top of that, one of the I guess ongoing. This is like a living story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the trouble I've had is always finding other people, especially journalists, to say, hey, listen, they're not going to listen to me alone, but they will listen to reporters and they will listen to journalists. And if if the journalists are asking the same question or a similar question representing what the people might ask, they will have a harder time ignoring that. And what I, before working with you, what I was telling other journalists and so forth is that, listen, the story will be, I guess you could say, updated and new with every little step and every little opportunity, because you'll be able to see firsthand exactly what my story is and how these leaders are responding, and that in and of itself provides the next story as a journalist for whatever platform that you're with. You know, so that was kind of always kind of my understanding. And in this case, I think that is part of the strategy, right? Because now the question I think that the American people would say is, okay, well, what happened? Because he's saying to the journalist that he gives the Paula, well, if nothing comes of it, what happened? Did Paula give it? You know, people would want to know what happened with that part. And then they would want to know, why did he tell, kind of what we're asking, why did he tell the journalist he did, but never responded to the actual applicant? And so I think that as we go forward, even with these other angles, that from the journalistic aspect, I think that is something that will build momentum, because when it gets to the next administration, right, it could be the same question, or not the same question. It could be, that question can be posed to the next administration, saying, "Hey, look, here's what happened with the last one. Are you going to do the same thing again?"
Same thing as far as what?
The same thing as far as this. What's the word? Stonewalling or slow rolling, or saying, "Yeah, we're looking at it, but not really looking at it." That fakeness, if you will.
Well, I don't think it ever got to the next administration. If that's what you're talking about?
No, I'm saying that I'm speaking more on as we are in the next administration, right? Like, so let's say, you know, once Biden takes office, if the same question is brought to him saying, "Hey, President Biden, sir, can you review this memorandum and sign it?" I think that at that point, there is more now to say that the last administration, for reasons unknown, to stop responding when asking for an update, or the update given to the journalist was that it was given to Ms. White, but there was no comment after that. You know what I mean? So I don't
think you need to put anything like that in. Maybe I'm a little confused, but I don't think you need to put anything like that in there. As far as
no, not in there. What I'm speaking is on a hypothetical of the people's perspective, right? As people continue to follow and read, whether it be, you know, whatever domain that we've already talked about, as they follow the story, I think these are questions they're going to be asking themselves at whatever step that we might be, because they're going to wonder, well, whatever happened to the last step, right? Like, there was no closure as to, oh, wow, it's almost like a movie, if you think about it. It's like, okay, finally got to the president's office in the final hour, fourth quarter, you know, you're 2 points down, and the football was thrown, and then the team got cut, right? You want to know what happened with that. So we want to know what happened with what Paula had. Did she give it to the president, or did she not? I think what people would want to know is an answer to that. But then if we're at the next, let's say, a story where, okay, now we're with the Biden administration asking the same thing, people that are following are going to say, man, I wonder what Biden will or will not do, because we never got an answer from the Trump side. So I wonder what they would do, right? And if Biden doesn't do anything, or they're slow-rolled or whatever, I think people are going to say, what is going on? You see what I mean? So I guess what I'm saying is the story builds on itself, and as people are tracking, I'm speaking to some questions I think they're going to have, which is pretty much kind of the same questions I have.
I think there's a solid chance that Biden is going to hire a Catholic advisor. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I do too. I just don't know. I don't know who.
I mean, and I was just thinking about this. It's going to be kind of sick and disgusting, but I'm going to say it anyway. Biden's probably going to die. Kamala Harris is probably going to take over. And then if your story gets pushed through, she's going to use you as a black vote guy.
I know. It would be all of the identity politics, right? black guys, women, military. I might even throw in my community was racist.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that she's like identity politics down the line.
Yeah. I'm 1,000%.
I think it's actually going to be more. Well, I guess it is the case. It's more identity politics on the left than it is on the right.
Absolutely.
Which is
weird. I'll tell you this.
What's that?
And this is crazy, right? Because now I can say that I've been through 2 administrations going through this. But it's with at least the Trump, and I don't want to say Trump himself, but I want to say the staff. With the Trump staff, not that I can't show any results, but at least there is a response from them at the higher levels, right? And I'm not saying that means much because nothing, it's still the same result, but at least there's some response or acknowledgement that, yeah, they've got it. And that's more than I had in the Obama-Biden administration, right? I remember, I don't know if you
I never really got a good idea what happened with the Obama-Biden administration, because that can kind of help me better understand what's about to happen with this Biden-Harris administration.
So the Obama-Biden administration, Biden was running at that time sexual assault and scandals, not just in the military, which was more visible in the media, but there was also sexual assault. The topic of sexual assault was coming out around campuses, right? This is when there was stories that were coming out from different prestigious campuses and so forth. And Biden and Obama announced that they were initiating what's known as an "It's on Us" campaign. This "It's on Us" campaign was meant to review and provide solutions to what Obama was terming at the time the sexual assault epidemic at our institutions, at our schools. And so this was kind of like the prereq of the Me Too movement, right? This is what was building to the Me Too movement ultimately. And so during that time, people like Protect Our Defenders, right? That's where they released that public letter to the Obama-Biden administration. They were doing it under the auspices of It's on Us campaign. They were doing it at the point in time where there was a bigger platform with ABC News and all that other stuff, with my story coming out. And so,
all the while, what was it? Brian Pertia, for Protect Our Defenders.
I was just looking at the point. Brian, I was speaking. Look, my encounter with Brian was I had Brian's cell phone number. Right, when my story first came out, Brian, what he told me, he said, I am the communications director for Protect Our Defenders, but I am going to be your communications director as we navigate through this. That's how close. I was talking to him more than I'm talking to you. Right? Oh. He was helping with ABC News. He was helping with ESPN. He was almost like, if I could term it, it was like he was my publicist. They would call him if they had a question, and he would say, hey, here's what I think the interview's going to do. Before I was interviewed with ABC News, we did 3 different mock interviews together, so he can kind of give me a feel on what it's like to have an anchor or interviewer. So I mean, it was like intimate working, I guess, relationship, for lack of better words, that was built there, right? So it's frustrating because it's like at that point you would think the stuff that I've been trying to do now would have been a lot easier to do then. But the problem is that the administration acted like I didn't even exist. And they were getting correspondence from all these different avenues. And they were just like they didn't get anything. To the point where even Brian said, I'm a little bit confused as to why we haven't heard anything from the Obama-Biden administration, because it's perfect. At the same time, there was vice president, right? So there was Senator Gillibrand. She was front and center, and she was leading the charge for the Democratic Party on sexual assault. Then you had Senator Jones. So you had that bipartisan relationship that was already established. There was no, I guess you could say, risk at all of anyone in the administration taking action. It was like was every positive political positive impact that you could have. And
Why
yet
do you
still,
Why do you think it fell apart? Do you think it fell apart because even though they were, all for defending sexual assault, you know what I mean?
yeah.
But maybe it was because you were a not a graduate, I should say, a former cadet of a military academy, and by association, do you think they stopped it because of that reason? Because of the political blowback of what would be for the military?
I think they didn't care. I mean,
yeah,
I think if I was, that's the clearest reason. They just didn't care.
I would say that's a very good reason.
I know that they were trying to move me for every political reason that they could. For example, Senator Gillibrand wanted me, and I know that when I said no to this, I don't want to say she distanced herself, but I want to say they were less open to going down different avenues. And if she had asked me to talk about it, was one of her staffers. It was her chief of staff, and I have his cell phone number, but it was her chief of staff, and it was during an hour-long conversation. This was right before I was going to go on ESPN. He said, "How do you feel about talking about Title IX?" And I said,
Kyle who? What?
About Title IX.
Sorry, you cut off again. One more time.
Title IX.
Oh, Title IX. Okay, sorry.
Title IX. He said, how do you feel about talking about Title IX? And how do you feel about the current bill that's on the Senate floor for Senator Gillibrand? And to give you a little background, the bill that she had on the floor was proposing that any and all sexual assault cases be taken out of the military, so there was no more commander discretion on it, and put in civilian hands. That was basically the bill that she had, and she was pushing for lots of changes on Title IX. And I told him, I said, well, there's two concerns that I have. And I said, one is that I'm trying to play on this team. And I said, and because of that, I am trying to get back in, continue serving, and I'm not really into the political aspect as much as I am just trying to carry on and resume my service. And I said, and the second thing is that, I'm trying to the best of my ability, say what I mean and mean what I say. And I said, and to be completely honest, I don't think that I am in a position, one, to say yes or no on this bill, because, what's that?
I'm talking on that. Yeah, I know. Sorry, some guy was talking to me. Go ahead.
But I was saying, I don't think I'm in a position to say yay or nay on this bill, because, I don't know if I fully and totally agree that the solution to sexual assault in the military is to take it out of any and all commander's discretion. And I let him know that, this isn't, for me personally, I don't want to speak or say something about anything that I don't actually believe in wholeheartedly. So I'd rather not necessarily talk about Title IX or the bill that Senator Gillibrand is.
What is Title IX exactly again?
So well, the creation of Title IX was originally meant to kind of even the playing field at college universities between sex discrimination, right? So it was a federal civil rights law. I think it was passed in like the 70s or something like that, and it prohibits any sex-based discrimination at a school or educational program. So basically, meaning that it was more or less used to have women D1 sports along with men D1 sports. So if you have a men's program, and all the things that surround that, you need to have, or at least be slanted towards having the women's program, right? Or you might be faced to discrimination based off of sex. Okay, so likewise, the Title IX was being used in terms of the sexual assault side. They were trying to use Title IX and modifications to Title IX to also include things that would be like sexual assault and what have you, that is there a discrimination against victims of sexual assault under Title IX because they're simply women? It was like one of those weird how does this civil rights law apply to this other thing? It's kind of weird or murky, but they're trying to use it to push something. That's what they were trying to do with that expansion.
So Senator Gillibrand, I don't even understand how, was trying to attach your story to Title IX action?
Not attach it to. She wanted me to talk about it, right? So
okay.
she wanted me to push her bill that was on the floor. That's for certain. And she wanted me to also comment on Title IX and basically be like mimicking her beliefs on that, right? So one she had was a direct action. The next one was more like, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but when they're talking about changing something or including something, think of like how there's discussions of getting rid of the electoral college, right? They won't put a bill on the floor right away, but you'll see people talking about it, whether it's a individual person or a politician. They'll start talking about, kind of get a feel on how people would start to react. That's what I mean by the Title IX side. On the other side that she did want me to push was the bill she had taking the powers out of the command's discretion when it comes to sexual assaults. And so
powers taken out of the command. What do you mean? Sorry.
Yeah. So right now the way the UCMJ is set up is that pretty much any and all cases, federal crimes that someone might commit in the military in uniform, it is a process that is completely separate and apart from the normal civilian process, right? So if you're a soldier and you commit some offense, maybe it's sexual assault, maybe you killed someone, anything that is just of a federal crime, well, you're going to go through the standard process under the UCMJ, right? You're going to have an Article 32 hearing. That's kind of like what the civilian equivalent would be to having almost like a pretrial, trying to see if it's even worth going to trial over. And then from an Article 32 hearing, you're going to go to actual court-martial, right? And the court-martial on the civilian side would be like saying, oh, I'm going to court. I was found, there's enough evidence that I was charged with this thing, and now I'm going to go battle it out in court. And then so forth with convictions and everything else. So that is, there's kind of like two judicial processes, one for military and one for civilian. What she was trying to do is that under the military side, it is always under the command's discretion. So let's say with sexual assaults, right? OSI does an investigation. They find that this person they investigate a person and find reason to believe that he sexually assaulted a girl. Okay, so that report goes to the commander, and the commander is typically supposed to sign off and say, okay, I command and initiate an Article 32 hearing, right? So it's pretty a signing off to say, as the commander of this person or this squadron where this person's under, I sign off on it. So what she was trying to do is take the commander aspect and even just the whole military process completely out of it. Like, she didn't want commanders to have any discretion on whether or not a case was going to go to trial. And she didn't want the commander to have any discretion on whether or not, if there was a conviction or not, whether to recommend that now the person is discharged or what have you. She just wanted the commander out of the way. But she also wanted the entire process to not even be in a UCMJ military court. So that basically means anything resulting in a sexual assault or sexual crime case was going to be handled completely out of any UCMJ process. So, that's what her bill was pushing. And a lot of these secretaries at the time were basically saying, hey, this jeopardizes our unit cohesiveness and our command structure when the command does not have any discretion over what happens or doesn't happen to the subordinates, right? And for me personally, I was more of the mind that, look, something has to happen. I don't think I agree with this complete overhaul because there are elements of being in the military that are that matter. That it's one of those things where it's kind of like, hey, look, the being in uniform and not being in uniform, there are different variables that are at play that I think are in the civilian setting. That won't be considered, which I think they should be considered, if you remove the entire process from under that the military umbrella and put it in the civilian court. Aside from aside from that, I did see that maybe we do need to do something with the amount of discretion that commander has. I could, if that's what the bill was exclusive to, sure, I think that maybe we could modify that, because obviously something's not working. But to just cold turkey throw the baby out with the bathwater, that it was just a little too much for me. You know what I mean? So
I got you.
Basically, yeah, I didn't want to speak on something that I didn't necessarily agree with, and I definitely didn't want to speak on something that I didn't completely understand myself had anything to do with my case. And all of that kind of felt. Listen,
what do you think she would have done for you as far as if you went along with it?
I think it would have been very similar to what she did in the beginning, where she would be publicly advocating for me, but privately doing nothing. Right? I think that she would be, and it would be another bullet point in front of the cameras to say something akin to, just like the Thomas case, we need to be able to take the powers out of the commander's hands so that we don't have what's happening. I think that's what she would have done, but she wouldn't have done anything behind closed doors. And I say that because, look, I appreciate and I don't want to get it confused that I am humbled by the help that she offered and that she was doing in the beginning. But I also am clear-minded enough to realize that, look, when she was in front of ABC News giving her statement, she never talked to me, right? I want to be clear about this, that she never, I spoke as far as, like I said, to her chief of staff. And again, I'm humbled by her calling me out by name and standing behind me. However, it wasn't like she was as invested as what it might appear. She never, and I tried to speak to her directly. I tried to fly out and share my story with her, and she didn't want to have that happen. I only spoke to her staffers. And I don't want to get it confused that I don't even think her staffers knew in detail what happened. And I say that because
no, I don't think so.
When I went to DC, and I have this recorded, by the way. I can give it to you. I was there with Covington. Yeah, I was there with Covington. And it was about a 30-minute conversation, and I was speaking to the staffers of Senator Thune and Senator Gillibrand. And at this point, I was working with them, I think about a year and a half, 2 years. And they, I was very thankful. I was letting them know, look, this is new to me. I appreciate you guys giving me the time. I know you guys have done so much so far, but here's where I'm at, and here's where things still stand, and I need your help to figure out a path forward. And some of the questions they were asking me was just like, it was depressing to me, because it was like, I thought you guys knew my story. For example, one of the staffers asked, why did you call it a Form 10? She goes, why did you keep getting so many Form 10s? And I was like, excuse me, I'm a little confused. And she said, well, you said that you got in trouble one time and then another time. And she said, after your first, 100 Form 10s, why did you keep committing these acts and keep getting in trouble and leaving base?
Did she not understand either the background of OSI, or did she not understand how a demerit works?
Exactly. I was like, I can't believe I have to explain this. And I said, well, let me I guess clear that up. I wasn't in trouble for multiple Form 10s. I said it is one Form 10 that has multiple incidents on it, all related to OSI. And I said, so I don't have 10 Form 10s that are equating to 309 demerits. I have one Form 10 that is equating to 309 demerits. And then another question came up, and it was, well, why did you continue to fail academically? Because isn't that what ultimately got you disenrolled? like, okay, no. That struggle, yes, I did. I did some wrong because I said it's a bit of a tongue, I think, maybe a beat. I don't have any. There's no disenrollment because of academics in my paperwork. And she goes, okay. So and this is what threw me. She's like, I'm a little confused. What the Air Force is saying is that you continue to get multiple Form 10s, and you failed your academics. And I said, okay, let me explain.
I never came across any mention of you getting honorably discharged for any reason academically. I mean,
it's because I know where they're getting the question, but what bothered me is like, but did you guys read the next lines, right? Because where they're getting the question is, if you look at the executive summary, for example, of the MERC, what the MERC says is he was struggling academically. He was
right.
Act Pro for this and this year. They put that into it, and then they say, and he was failing his conduct and aptitude probation when it came to his demerits. And so they don't necessarily separate. They throw that in there.
But
so
struggling academically is not the same as failing academically. I think you had like a 2.39 or something like that. I mean, that's not great, but I mean, people should be able to graduate if they put in the work. I believe that fully.
Listen, I'm not one to say like, oh, I was genius or whatever. I'm like, hey, look, I was the guy that had to stay up like 3 a.m. studying for that math test the next day. Like, that was me. I've never said that I was Einstein or whatever. But you remove the demerits, I graduate. Period. I wasn't on the chopping block for demerits. When I went to Act Pro, they didn't vote to disenroll me. In fact, all of my instructors, I have this is kind of deep in my documentation, but every time I had to go to an academic board of review, they would ask my instructors whether or not they believe I should be retained. For all 5 years that I was at the academy, anytime I got on academic probation, every single instructor commented and said that, no, he should be retained. I believe that he'll graduate. I never had a single instructor in my entire career that said no. So it sounds like, I see what the Air Force is doing, and I see.
Well, let's walk it back. This was Senator Gillibrand's staff, you said, right?
And Thun's. So when I was in D.C., it was staffers from Thun's office and Gillibrand's office that I had a meeting with.
Did Thun get reelected, or did he not get reelected?
Yeah, he got reelected.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, all of this is just kind of background to where we're at today to say, hey, here's why I believe that this is what Todd isn't doing, and here's why I'm going on 8 years of fighting this, because I get so close, and then for reasons unknown, aside from stonewalling or just downright ignoring, nothing happens.
Well, I mean, on the side that these people may not see your story as a way to bolster their own means to an end, I think that's probably the reason why it falls apart. I mean, you can't be under the illusion that, we call on politicians to work for the people anymore, as cynical as that sounds. Like,
that's right.
A lot of them are there for their own careers. I mean, I understand that, but I don't have to like it. You don't have to like it either. And I don't think we should like it. I really don't think we should. I think there are means to overcome this. We have a clear idea, or a better idea, of what that is now.
Yeah.
As far as maybe political awareness.
Well,
the best.
The silver lining is now I know. Well, now I know. I think Ms. Paula did hit it on the head when she said, you have to have some type of senior advocate at a high level to push your story, right? And I think that I know now more specifically what I'm asking the president to do in terms of I'm asking for a memorandum and I'm not asking for a pardon. And I know I've always said that I'm not asking for a pardon, but I didn't really know the legal or the actual term aside from just saying a letter. I think it's specifically a presidential memorandum. And so that is somewhat of the silver lining that, hey, look, now I know what gets me close, sir, and now I know exactly what document I'm asking to be reviewed.
The MRC?
Not the MERC, it's the MFR.
The what? The what did you say?
MFR. It's MFR stands for Memorandum for Record. But it's the presidential memorandum. The one that
I get confused with all the syllables and whatnot, or the acronyms. So the MFR is the one we sent to the president last night. That wasn't the MERC, was it?
No. So the MFR.
That was the MFR?
Yeah, it was the MFR.
Okay, I got you.
And you can think of an MFR as literally like writing a note, right? So like, let's say when we get off the phone today, you could write an MFR and you say memorandum for record for conversation with Eric on 19 January 2021. And you could literally put, the purpose of this memorandum is just to highlight the major points, and then you could put the reason being because I would like to, this is a continuation of documentation of the conversation, and leave it at that. It's just it's an official way of a memo. A MERC stands for Military Review Committee, and a MERC is something that's exclusive to the academy.
Right. Okay. Sorry, go. My bad.
Yeah.
So where do you think we stand right now?
What do you mean?
So where do you think we stand as sort of like, not in a general sense, in a literal sense, where do you think we stand as the next step to go forward?
Finding the people who are coming into the Biden administration, continuing to work on the BCMR. We have a memo now that I think is pretty much just a copy paste of what we're trying to give to that advisor, or to give to the president, and kind of better knowing, or not better knowing, of having more current and up-to-date topics of the story, right? Because here's one thing that I think is why my story has gone so far, is because it's ongoing. It's kind of like a living document, if you will. And so the other aspect where we stand right now is now we can say to whomever we come across.
Sorry, are you there? You there? Hello? Hold on. Are you there? Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Barely. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, that's a little bit better. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So where we stand today is getting a hold of people that are close to the Biden administration. I think that we have more. How do I word this? With every step, whether something good or bad happens, it is still a story in and of itself.
Right.
And so because of that, we have another article or another story, I guess you could say. I think it's positive that whomever the person that we may or may not come in contact to in the Biden administration, we could say, look, the senior aide to Trump was supporting this. We can't say what happened, but we can say that they were supporting this. And in fact, anyone that I've talked to hasn't supported this, right? So there's more of that vetting or confidence that I'm not BSing. And I think, what hasn't been said, that is probably pretty obvious, is that, hey, if someone was to ask me or just kind of wonder, Eric, what have you been doing for the last 8 years? Well, hey, look, I have more documentation than I have more examples to show you that I'm not just sitting on my hands, that I'm not just waiting for the boat to pass by and I can just jump on it. Here's what I've been doing, right? Here's the letter I got from the chief of staff. Here's the response that I got from the board. Here's the response that I got from Ms. Paula White. Here's the package that I sent to them. So it is also a record that is being created that it's not for a lack of effort, and I'm not just sitting here. And I think that all kind of chalks up to where we're at today.
Okay, so my guess is, I mean, the best we can do right now is kind of just sit and wait and hope, I guess. And a very slim chance that we'll hear anything back from the Trump administration, but not counting on it. But right, go ahead.
Going forward, here's what I think we should do, right? I think, we sit and wait, but I think tomorrow, not even tomorrow, I think tonight, it might, because obviously Todd will respond to you, I think it could be, appropriate to ask Todd, and I'll ask him too, but just to ask Todd, what happened, if anything happened, to what Miss White gave or didn't do. What happened to the document? Was she able to give it to him, or was she not able to give it to him? Basically.
Do you want me to call him, or do you want me to email him?
I think it's email to start off, and if he doesn't respond, then I'll send you his number.
I think calling might be the better option, so might be able to rope him in a little bit more, whereas email he can just ignore right off the bat.
Okay.
And I can record calls, so I'll have a record of whatever he's saying.
That's true. And maybe give him a call, and then if he doesn't answer your call, send him an email. And I'm only saying that because, again, the paper trail is what matters, I think. And it shows, maybe at a later date, if someone was to say, well, what exactly do you have? Do you have evidence? Again, this might just be my PTSD, but when and if you have evidence of doing this thing, you can have evidence of doing that thing. So I'll send you his number, or I can give it to you now if you've got a pen ready.
Hold on. You could probably just text it to me. It would be better.
Okay. So, So we'll call Todd, and then depending on if he answers or not, we'll follow up with an email. And then tomorrow, today I'm going to be working on the DCMR. Tomorrow, I think that starting immediately to try to get a hold of people on the Biden side. I think that on your end, it's you have like a perfect example of how you have a different power than I have. So there might be avenues and openings that you may be more closer to achieving than I could be.
What do you think those are?
Well, I think that when you ask, and I think you've seen it, even though you've been stonewalled with the Air Force, right? You still talk to somebody, right? Like, hey, I'm writing a story and I'm trying to speak to General Clark, right? You'll get that. You'll get at least another voice on the other end. I don't even get that. And so I think that as trying to find people that are in the administration, I think that asking them or talking to them and saying, hey, here's the story. Here's how the ball was dropped with the last administration, so forth and so on. I'm following the story, and I'm curious to know if you guys are going to pick this up or if you are willing to help. Kind of asking from the journalistic perspective. I think that would carry weight, not just because you're a journalist, but also because they seems like people will trust the vetting of a journalist and take it a little bit more serious than they would if the person that the story's around is calling. And so I think that is kind of the next step of trying to create an opportunity again that's like this. I think that I'm going to also contact the senators here, Ossoff and Warnock. Again, asking them if they can get this memorandum to the president.
Did you just get referred to their staffers?
Yeah, I know I'll get referred to their staffers, but hey, that's the only thing I can do, and I'm not asking them to do a congressional inquiry. But here's what I'm getting at is that whether they say yes or no, it is still a story, and kind of the dead man's trigger, if you will, is the way I see it is that if the people realize that all of these steps and all of these things that I'm doing, that we're doing, and this is the responses they're having, I think it becomes a bigger story that more people would say, what is going on, right? If Warnock ignores it and we say, hey, look, here is the memorandum, here's the documentation, here's when we met, and they did nothing. And OSAF does that. And then people in the Biden administration does that. And then people in the Trump administration have been doing that. And then, so I think it provides this record where people will say, what the hell is going on? That in and of itself, I think, is a national story that I think people would ask no matter what these people do. Right?
So
and I call it a yep.
Could you actually send me, like you were saying, like I might have a bit of a different angle in this. Could you send me the staffer number of OSAF and Warnock as well?
Sure.
Because I think I might be able to poke at them a little bit better.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is that ultimately is that hitting these angles, both on my end and on your end, the outcome of that, aside from just hopefully things getting resolved, is that it becomes, I think, something that is a national story. Because in my experience, what these bigger platforms do when they take on a story of a journalist is that they want to see, is it applicable or something that the people would be interested in. And in this case, I think as time keeps ticking, there's so many names and so many familiar faces and actors and things that people would be able to resonate with, between sexual assaults, the military, and oh look, the 2 new senators in Georgia, and oh look, some of the I even intend to hit up Cruz. I mean, I'm serious. It's kind of a full blanket approach of
Ted Cruz?
getting a hold of people. Yeah, Ted Cruz. Right, Ted Cruz.
How did that go?
Well, no, I'm saying that's what I'm intending to do now.
Oh,
like that's
okay.
That's a door that I'm gonna knock on.
I don't know how much
and
pull he'll have.
What's that?
I don't know how much pull he'll have.
So I think that if they want to do something, they will do something. I mean, it's as simple as that. I don't think that if I'm asking them, can you please either set up a meeting with someone in the presidential office or give this letter to the president, I think that individually, yeah, sure, Cruz wouldn't have much. I think collectively, when I'm asking everyone, I think it's a different. I don't think it flies as easily to say, well, I just didn't have that much pull.
Right. I mean, I think they can definitely rest in our laurels, at least, like you were saying earlier. Like, I tried, but nothing took it done, so they just kind of stored publicly and not do anything privately.
I think but that is a story, right? Kind of fast forward, let's say that we do all of these things. Fast forward just a month or whatever, and let's say that we get these say fake responses of yes, I'm going to do something, or yeah, I think it's a great idea, I'll get back to you, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. I think that story that you write, basically saying, here are all the people and all the institutions and all the names that have been approached, that have been talked to, with the single request of trying to get this story fixed and trying to get this letter to the president, and all of them have said no or ignored on a bipartisan level. I think that is something that will gain speed in the media environment we are in today, because it is one of the few stories I think that no matter what side you fall on, everyone can agree that the system is failing, right? It doesn't matter if you're a Trump supporter, because look, hey, here's evidence, and here's what we were trying to do on that end. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, because look, the Republicans are doing the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat. Look, the Democrats are doing and saying the same thing. I think that is a story and especially when it's centered around sexual assault in the military in 8 years. I think that everyone, when we talk about, what is it that everyone resonates to, and everyone can resonate to being just completely crapped by big institutions.
I tell you what's going to help us out as far as getting ahead is us coming off kind of dumb, all right?
Yeah.
So playing dumb in the instances where we're trying to get ahead or trying to get information as to, why things fell through or why things, got pushed through, whatever. I don't know if you know this, but try to play it up like you don't know what's going on. And I think in virtue of the fact that you got as far as you did because you may not have been aware of what was going on, you were just documenting, which I think is extremely good. I think that's ultimately been our best means to success.
Oh yeah, I mean 1,000%. I'm not speaking as though like this is kind of like how I'm going to approach it. I mean I'm thinking that I don't know it, because I don't, right? I don't know if that one person is actually going to do something and they do something. I guess what I'm more speaking to is that I have, I guess, been doing it long enough to realize that I don't know I do know what's going on, and I don't know what's going on, right? I do know that this is what it takes to get something done. I don't always know why it doesn't get done. And that is kind of the approach that I intend to take, is that I'm not going to come and let them know my expectation that you're not going to do anything, and so this is what the next story is going to be, so please say no. It's like, no, I hope you do something. I don't know what you're going to do. Everyone has power of their own choices. And because of that, I do hope you do something. But at the same time, I'm not ignorant to the fact, this isn't like 2020 or 2012 anymore, that I do know that if you don't do anything, I guess this is the word I'm looking for, is that if these people don't do anything, it builds a story of accountability.
Right.
And it builds enough of a platform that I think at that point, it is a story that not only when shared by some of these media people, or as that attraction from people who are slowly following the story and wondering, what is this, from like the conspiracy sites and from any other net that we're casting. I think what ends up happening is that when that story is written, and maybe that is when we finally do that press release type of thing, that there are so many names that it is a topic that people understand, that I think when there are a roster of people we have talked to and all are doing nothing, that is kind of, I guess you could say, the flashpoint of accountability. From now, it's not just me or journalists asking questions. Now this is getting taken up by other platforms, and the people are asking the questions.
Right, Eric. Can you walk me back real quick, just real quick? What you remember saying to Paula the first time you met? Do you remember like how that? I remember you saying like you walked into a room and whatnot, and she was sitting there, I guess, eating oatmeal or yogurt or whatever. But do you remember the actual like conversation roughly? It might be a little hard, I'm sure.
Yeah, I do. First it's always a little awkward, right? Because like there's no point of reference. Like, how do I begin telling you my story, especially if you don't have any background, right? You don't have a background in the military. You're not a sexual assault or victims advocate. You know, it was tough. So I remember, you know, when I first got in there, I was I don't want to say unprepared, but I just wasn't expecting to speak to her. You know, I didn't go to that church thinking, you know, hey, at the end of service, I'm going to speak to Paula White as she's eating some oatmeal. And so I remember, you know, my uncle is a little Puerto Rican businessman, right? And he's everything you could think in a stereotypical Puerto Rican way. At the end of service, he went and he asked one of the I don't know what you would call them, maybe like not a staffer, but maybe one of the staff for the church. He was talking to them, and in that conversation, he was bringing up me. You know, my family's in town. You know, that's my nephew, and you know, he's trying to get back into the Air Force. That type of conversation. And in that conversation, who he was talking to was Todd. And again, none of us knew who Todd was or anything like that. And I came over, and he presented himself and said that, you know, hey, my name is, you know, Todd Lemper. I work with Miss Paula White, and it was only kind of a quick 30-second Google search that I was like, who's Paula White, right? And I looked her up, and I thought, oh, she is part of the actual Trump administration. And as my uncle was talking and whatnot, he asked if we could speak to Miss Paula White. And Todd was kind of apprehensive, and he was wondering, you know, well, what is this about? And I gave him kind of a 30-second clip of saying, hey, for the last, you know, 7 years I've been trying to get back in. I can't seem to be listened to. I keep getting overlooked. I keep getting ignored, and I'm just trying to get back in the serve. I don't know for sure whether or not he maybe did a Google search on my name or what have you, but I told him, you know, you could Google my name and you'll see articles and stories basically saying what I'm saying now. And I think that he was moved enough at that moment. He said, well, let me go and talk to Paul. Maybe we can get you to share your story with her. And so he went back, and I was just kind of standing there for a few minutes. He comes back and takes me to this back room at the back of the stage at the church, and it was an all white big marble table, kind of like a real cliche, almost like a movie setting where you think, you know, oh, I'm going to the prestigious room or something like that. Paula was wearing a bright red blazer with a black skirt. She's like a little white lady compared to me. So it was like a movie where like she's Queen DeVille kind of thing, you know. So went back there. She was eating some oatmeal, and we were just kind of small talking for the first few minutes, where she was, you know, basically letting me know, yeah, it's a crazy, chaotic time. There's a lot of stuff going on. She was telling me about how President Trump had called her around Thanksgiving and said, hey, did you see what I said? And she was like, no, I didn't see it. And we were talking about some of the censorship, and that was kind of what opened the door. And I said, look, I can only imagine what you and President Trump and the rest of the administration face, but yeah, I know what it's like to not be heard. And I began to explain my story.
The reason why I asked you that is because I just sent you this text message, okay?
Okay.
You check your text messages real quick.
Okay.
All right.
Washington Post?
Yeah.
Josh Dixon. Okay.
So this Josh Dixon guy is Joe Biden's national faith engagement director. And if I had to guess, you know, upon inauguration, or maybe a few days after, my guess is he'll probably name this guy his advisor for the evangelical vote. I've never heard of this guy, but I'm trying to find out. He's got a Twitter. I'm trying to find out where he where he does sermons at, and I'm a little disappointed that it's not a black guy. That's a preacher.
Hey, and here's the other ironic part is that Miss White is like the pastor of an entire black church.
I know. I never thought it was crazy.
I'm telling you, I was so confused because, like, I've been to black churches before, right?
Right.
But I was thinking, like, oh, where's the bishop? Like, when's he coming up, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
like when she came up, I initially thought like, oh, maybe it's like a guest speaker or something. Like that's where my mind was. I was like, oh, it's a guest speaker. And I'm thinking to myself, no, she's the actual pastor of an all-black church. Like, I would have never guessed when I went to research her name. Like, I didn't even like. I would think like, oh, I don't know if it's important or not, but it is pretty interesting. And so completely threw me. But yeah, I think getting a hold of this guy, right? I think what made Miss White interesting is that she was pastoring at the church. With this guy,
I'm
he's
looking.
not.
I can't find where he like conducts sermons at or anything. I don't know.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that I don't know if he is a pastor per se, because you could be, you could say, hold the title, but it doesn't mean you're actually leading a church. And in this case, maybe he will be strictly with the administration as his normal 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Which
I guess.
Which I think then the way to reach him is to find out, okay, who in the church is close to him that might be worthy speaking to.
But he must have some sort of speaking engagements, because the reason the Washington Post article framed it like this, that they picked this guy because of his I don't know, his connection with the evangelical community. I don't know what that means. He's got 1,500 followers on Twitter. I mean, that's nothing crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
So I don't know. Hopefully there'll be somebody more prominent coming in, because.
Yeah, no. Look, I think that right now it's going to take research to know how to get a hold of him, but I think that it is worth getting a hold of him. I think that look, the church, kind of like the Air Force, the church is small, right? And so it will be doable, I think, to try to get to him, or at the very least try to get to where he often goes or what he often does, so that I could speak to him.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's definitely like, yeah, I think that is, people like him is going to be part of that next step.
Yeah. All right. So I'm not really sure what the next move is, to be honest.
Well, I think the next move right now is, okay, let's figure out what does or doesn't happen with Todd.
Okay.
And then from there we go to, okay, let's I'll create a roster of different political representatives, and even, here's the other thing, even some actors. Again, I go back to the It's On Us campaign. One of the leaders,
actors
or celebrities, yeah, musicians, and I'm saying that because of this. For example, Lady Gaga was one of the advocates for the It's On Us campaign back then under the Obama-Biden administration.
Okay.
Right? And so there was a period of time she was on podcasts and everything else talking about how she's been a victim of sexual assault, right? So I think that after today, and depending on what or doesn't happen with Todd, the next step is building that roster of people to contact, and then contacting these people with that single request of, I'm trying to get this memorandum to Biden. And so I think that would be the next step after that.
Wait, back it up. Did you say you're going to try to get a hold of Lady Gaga? I zoned out there. Did you say you're trying to get a hold of Lady Gaga?
Yeah. So I'm thinking everyone. What's that?
How are you going to get a hold of Lady Gaga?
Yeah, so celebs are easy to find who are connected to them. And so I think it's a lot easier for me to find her publicist and or agent to try to get a hold of her than it is for me to try to find someone in the administration.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, how backwards is that, right? Like, I could find someone who is, literally, I can do a quick Google search and find the publicist of Lady Gaga, which I know is going to be obviously close to Lady Gaga. But if I try to find someone that's close to the administration or any political office, yeah, good luck.
I'll look it up right now. Lady Gaga publicist. I don't know if that's. I don't know. Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. And again, I look at it in two ways. To me, it's I hope a door opens, but if a door doesn't open, it becomes the story, right? It becomes it becomes the story, right?
Right, I get that, but on one hand, like, wow, she's only 33. Holy fuck. God damn it, I feel like a fucking loser. We can't just keep spinning our wheels here, we gotta commit to moving forward somehow.
I welcome to the path, right? The path that this is but for the wheels to spin, for something to happen, there has to be someone else that begins to open that door. And depending on what goes on with Todd or not, we have to find a door that begins to open. And to find that, we got to start knocking on every door.
Okay. Yeah, fuck it. Lady Gaga. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
Well, look,
I'll tell you what.
Here's an example. An example of a Lady Gaga angle is the same type of example of a Kim Kardashian angle going with Trump, right? Where we had all of these.
The Kim Kardashian. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so Kim Kardashian was a big advocate, or one of the leading advocates for the prison reform. And she was advocating for different people that were in prison to get a pardon. And so there was several notable examples in which Kim Kardashian personally worked with Trump and his administration to overturn or completely reprise some of these people who were coming out of jail. So when there were, I don't know if you remember some of the black folks saying that if it wasn't for President Trump and what he did with prison reform, I would have been able to get out and all these other things. That was led by Kim Kardashian.
Which wasn't really led by Kim Kardashian. I'm sure it was somebody that was like in our situation who just talked to Kim Kardashian and was like, hey, Kim, you want to look a little bit smarter so people don't think you're just a bowl full of silicone? She's like, yeah.
Exactly. I'll send you some articles, but one I'm looking at ABC News. Kim Kardashian West meets Trump was recently commuted several women from a prison sentence. Another story. Kim Kardashian asked Trump for clemency ahead of U.S. man's death. Kim Kardashian visits White House with prisoners she helped release. So, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's what I mean by the angle with Lady Gaga. It's not unheard of, and it is another angle. And again, I hope something happens, but if nothing happens, again, I think that fallback plan is this is a story, right? Like, people will read something that involves both Lady Gaga, Ted Cruz, and Senator Austin and wonder, what the hell is this?
That's a great headline right there. That's a good headline.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, it doesn't matter whether the door opens or not, in my experience, because what matters is the effort. What matters is, look, I'm not going to stop. And the more you know, the bigger the story is, and the more people are going to say, why is everyone from all these institutions and all these domains doing nothing? And what happens is, and I think of it this way, it is a national story when you're asking everyone from Lady Gaga to Warnick of Georgia. What's going on here? How do these two things connect?
Right. Well, hey, if you get Lady Gaga's number, can you send it to me? I'm not just saying that as a joke either. Like, I am as much as I am actually interested to, like, I don't know. I think it'd be a fun angle, and I'd really like to work that if you do manage to get Lady Gaga's number.
Absolutely. Look, real quick, because I gotta call, I gotta return the call to these detectives again. But funny little story. It has nothing to do with any of this, but it's I kind of laugh thinking about it. So at the academy, we have something called ring dance, right? Have you ever heard of that?
Rain dance?
Ring dance, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so ring dance, it's really well known for both its prestigiousness. So ring dance is when you get your ring from the academy.
Oh, really?
It's your junior year, and it is one of the most prestigious events in the military. So there have been cases in which people would bring a celebrity, or people would have different congressmen and women that are there. It's a big deal. Everyone dresses up in your cleanest attire, and it's a big deal. When I was a sophomore, right? I don't have any. I'm not a dirtbag freshman, right? I got more privileges, but I don't mean anything because I'm not committed to the Air Force yet. But I'm about to be, right? So. We were, me and a group of my friends were like, who are we gonna take and what are we gonna do and so forth, and I was like, man, I gotta make a wave. I gotta bring the hottest chick I can imagine to this dance, right? And we would fool around with these ideas. Some people were taking some girls from back home, and some were taking their girlfriends, and some were just gonna make a joke of it and be like, well, I'm gonna hire a stripper and take her, right? So I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to spend 2 days a week just for 30 minutes on those days. And I'm going to figure out how to take, and this was back then when the movie Transformers was coming out, right? And that whole thing. I was like, I'm going to take Megan Fox. Right? So I spent 2 weeks trying to get a hold of Megan Fox, right? And I got to Megan Fox's actual agent, and I'm thinking, I'm really not going to talk to him, but it's cool. So one day, as I'm sitting in the library, I get a call from Megan Fox's agent, right? And he calls me, and I said, I'm just calling, I'm a cadet at the Air Force Academy, and we have this ball coming up, and I'd really like to see if Megan Fox would be interested in going. And he goes, well, I have you on speaker, and I have Megan here in the room now. And she's like, hey, Eric. And I was like, oh, right? Like, of course, I'm like freaking out, like, hey, yeah. So I didn't think I'd actually be able to talk to you. And she's like, what are the dates? And I was like, well, it's on this date and this time, and kind of giving her some details. And she's like, oh, I would love to go, but I don't think I could go. And I just thought it was the sweetest thing because, my agent was telling me that you've been trying to reach me, and I'm sorry I won't be able to make it, but I just wanted to, if it was any other time, I'd let you know. And, I thought, I was like, hell yeah, look, if anyone asks, I got turned down by Megan Fox. That's cool. I'm cool with that. I mean, she would have gone, man. Like, she would have gone. It's a bar story.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I don't know how you managed to get that far, but yeah, if you can get a hold of Lady Gaga, fucking hook that shit up, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna send you Todd's number.
Okay.
And we'll see, what happens then. Then I'm again roster, then getting a hold of everybody. Just hitting. Tomorrow is just another day of more door knocking.
What time do you think we should call Todd?
I would say maybe 1:30 because he's Eastern Coast, right? So maybe 1:30, like right after lunch.
1:30 Eastern time or 1:30 Mountain time?
Eastern time, because he is East Coast, and everyone is East Coast.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
And then
yep.
Are you actually going to start doing research on Lady Gaga?
I am. I'm going to start doing research on everybody.
All right. I'll try to see if I can dig up anything. But
Okay.
we'll talk. When do you want to talk next? Tomorrow night?
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night.
5 p.m. Well, tomorrow night was it the 20th?
It is.
All right. I'll try to watch the inauguration, and if we can, we'll do like a play-by-play or something.
Sounds good. Works for me.
All right. Talk to you then.
Okay. Okay. Talk to you then.
Bye.